All right, well, it's 101. I think we can go ahead and get started here. I want to thank everyone for joining. Um, I'm Patrick. I'm account manager for raters here at Ecotrope. Used to be a HERS rater before I worked here. And today we have a very special guest who don't know if he's joined any of our webinars before, but like to welcome Paul. You want to introduce yourself, Paul?
Thanks, Patrick. This is actually my first time presenting at a webinar. I'm an energy model developer here at Ecotrope, and now a water model developer as well. Uh, I've been at Ecotrope about 4 years now, and also sit on this standard committee for developing HERS H2O.
Yeah, absolutely. So Paul's the right guy for this job here. Um, we'll be sharing about HERS H2O and just residential water efficiency in general today. Um, I guess a few just quick notes. We do have a Q&A open. Feel free to put questions in there, and we'll try to answer them as we go along and also save time at the end for questions. Um, and then also, this is being recorded and will be posted to our YouTube page in the next day or two after the webinar. All right. Well, I think we can go ahead and get started. Thanks everyone for coming. So a little bit about the webinar today. We'll be talking about water conservation. Why does it matter? Water efficiency. Why is it important? We'll be talking about HERS H2O and WaterSense, how they overlap. Specifics about how to model HERS H2O and Ecotrope. The ResNet submission process. There's a few tricky points there that we want to cover now that there's kind of two parallel submission workflows. And then we have a little bit on the end regarding market drivers and just kind of general industry information about how HERS H2O is doing and what locations it's happening in. Okay, let's get going. We like to start here, big picture, water. So we're talking about not just water, but potable water, and even beyond that, accessible drinking water that can be used in homes. Um, so, uh, you know, Obviously, 97 point, there's only 2.5% of the water on Earth is considered fresh water. And of that, an even smaller portion is really accessible water in the form of, lakes, rivers, groundwater, soil moisture, things like that. So we're really talking, we're the blue planet, but it's a very small portion that we can really use for water in our homes. Okay. Specifically, we're going to talk a little bit about Phoenix, Arizona, as kind of the ground zero for water efficiency in homes in the U.S. There's pretty strict limits around, how much water can be used in a new development, and oftentimes getting the, rights to use that water is one of the biggest hurdles in setting up new developments in the Phoenix area. But this is more and more becoming an issue across the Southwest and really just the southern United States in general. This is a graph showing the population with the water production. So in Phoenix specifically. So as you can see, since 1990, there've been over almost 150,000 people added to the city in the last 30 years. But water production, and what we mean by water production is, production of usable water in homes has not really increased. And I think that's an important place to note. You can always, we're used to this world of energy efficiency where, you can build more energy production. You can build, wind turbines, you can build power plants, you can build, all sorts of things. It's much more difficult and costly to increase your water production. There's just you get into things like desalination and things like that that are really, really expensive, both to develop and to just implement in general. So how are we going to make this gap up of, we have a certain amount of water, but the population is continuing to rise in these low water areas. That's where residential water efficiency comes into focus um, as a important piece of this puzzle. This map, folks are probably familiar with maps like this. The Southwest area is typically associated with as being kind of the drier part of the US. It's also been under considerable drought. I was talking to someone the other day who, took his kids to the Hoover Dam and like the water level was way down. So, obviously there's lots of drought conditions, but especially focused in the Southwest. This kind of reflects the water supply, but if we look at water demand and water supply, it paints a different picture where, many places out west and just along the South in general are under high, what we call water stress, baseline water stress, which is if you compare the demand for usable water in homes with the amount of available usable water, you quickly get a high amount of baseline water stress. Over half the states in the US are under medium high, high, or extremely high baseline water stress. And 41 of the top 50 home building states, or not states, cities in the US are in one of these medium high to extremely high baseline water stress. So this isn't just a problem for the Southwest. It can touch places like Florida, Texas, North Carolina, Idaho, all sorts of places that, can play in this water efficiency space and have good reason to do it. This is a graph that, this is specific to the city of Los Angeles and a study they did on the cost of water production. As you can see, the price of housing, food, gasoline, all follow a pretty similar trajectory that's in line with inflation or CPI. But in this specific example for Los Angeles, the cost of water has far outpaced that. And, I know talking to people in my life, like water bills have continued to increase in many locations. So there's obviously a financial impact here as well. So, we talk about energy efficiency, saving people money on their energy bills. Water is a big piece of that and is continuing to be a more and more important piece of that. So that's just kind of setting the stage of like, why are we talking about water efficiency? Why is there a HERS H2O standard? Why is this important? It's going to continue to be an important topic for new home construction in the US. Yeah, I saw a hand raised. Feel free to put questions in the Q&A, which if you don't see it at the bar at the bottom of your Zoom, you might be able to find it if you click more. That's where I found it. There, you can open up the Q&A tab and leave us a question there, and we'll answer it either live or we'll write back an answer. Okay. I'm now going to hand it over to Paul to talk a little bit about some of the details for HERS H2O and the WaterSense program.
Thank you, Patrick. So HERS H2O is a program put on by ResNet. It is defined by standard ANSI ResNet ICC 850, released back in 2020. This defines a procedure for determining your water rating index. And you can think about this how like 301 defines the procedure for defining the HERS energy rating index, right? It's pretty analogous there. And then 850, along with the implementation guidelines, helps to define the whole HERS H2O program. To be able to qualify to submit, you have to do, I'm pretty sure it's a pretty small training to be a HERS H2O rater field inspector, but you do already have to be rater or field inspector to get those qualifications. They're sort of additional add-ons. And then you still have to be working with a HERS H2O provider, who also has to be a regular provider. This is all to say this is a great methodology, and it's approved by the EPA for WaterSense. What is WaterSense? You can think about WaterSense like Energy Star. They're both EPA programs, and they both define out a standard to get approved, right? And so WaterSense off-field program helps you guarantee water efficiency, less waste in that home. And just like for Energy Star, the raters need to be WaterSense verified here and working with WaterSense approved builders. There's a couple WaterSense approved certification methods. HERS H2O is now one. You've probably heard of WERS before, the water, I can't remember what it stands for. The WERS, which is another really popular one, I believe, in the Southwest, but is much more detailed.
Yeah, and Paul, I just want to add one other thing. We did have a question about how does this affect points? What we're talking about here is there's HERS energy, which is kind of the HERS index that folks are used to. HERS H2O is a completely separate index. There is some overlap, like, both dishwashers impact both indexes, but what you input for your HERS H2O score likely will not impact your HERS energy score. You kind of think of them as parallel or complementary indexes that are supported in Ecotrope and by ResNet.
Great point, Patrick. Thank you. So overall, big picture, what goes into these ratings? First off, big things, geography, where the house is. That affects how much water it gets, how much sunlight it gets, which can all affect the outdoor irrigation. And then we're looking at like house size and bedrooms, which can affect, bedrooms are a proxy for a number of people. That's how many times the toilet gets flushed, how many showers are taken, things like that. So inside the home, right, we're thinking about fixtures, toilets, the hot water distribution system, because this can affect hot water waste, water pressure. If there's a water softener, that's going to affect water use, and kind of appliances that Patrick just mentioned. And then outside the home, we're looking at things like lot size, irrigation system, how much of the lot is irrigated, and if there's a pool.
Yep. And you can think of this as almost like the minimum rated features for HERS H2O, if you think about it that way.
That's a good point, Patrick. Yeah. So the HERS H2O rating, just like the regular HERS rating, is an index, right? And this goes from 0 to 100. For the H2O rating, it's a little bit easier. We're just doing the division of the rated home water use divided by the reference home water use. There's no IAD home or any other complications there, which means that simplicity means we can also break it out into an indoor, and outdoor water rating index, if you're curious. And so reference home, just like the HERS reference home, should have a water rating index around 100. And that reference home is really largely going to depend on kind of the lot size, the number of bedrooms, if there's a pool or not, and of course the location of the home. And those all carry over from the rated home. Yeah. So WaterSense, how does WaterSense relate back to this? We're looking for a HERS H2O or water rating index of 70 or less. And that's just like an ERI target that you might see with your Energy Star home. But it's going to be constant, 70 or less. Then there's also a few mandatory extra requirements, and these are just extra inspection points that you'll make as a rater. You have to do a pressure loss test just to show there's no leakage. You have to verify leak-free connections, and pretty easy. We just have check boxes to go through and just check that these things are done. And then you also have to verify for the fixtures that they have that WaterSense label on them and they're WaterSense verified. Yeah.
Um,
So
yeah,
in
one
more detail.
yeah,
Yeah.
one quick thing I'll just add, Paul. I do want to mention, um, obviously WaterSense, it's run by the EPA. There's obviously a lot is happening with the Energy Star program. I do just want to speak a little bit. The WaterSense program is legally set up a little bit differently than the Energy Star program. There is a specific law in place that says there will be a WaterSense program, and here are the requirements, basically. So it will be a much it's a legally more robust and resilient program than Energy Star is. So while there's a lot up in the air about Energy Star, that's less the case for WaterSense. And uh, obviously things can change. We don't know, but just wanted to share that context.
Yeah. Thanks, Patrick.
So, yeah.
Um, yeah. So getting into some more detail about how this works in Ecotrip specifically. Um, Getting going, if you're a rater, you're probably familiar with the water tab. Of course, this is where you're logically going to start adding your water use inputs. And so we have that nice checkbox on the right. And then under your codes and programs tab, of course, you're looking for your water codes, HERS H2O, EPA, WaterSense programs. And so once you click that, um, it's going to, next slide, please. Thanks, Patrick. This is going to signal your intent to do the HERS H2O rating, right? This is going to add the water rating index to your quick results and enable the analyses. Without this clicked, yeah, we can't really do anything for you because we won't have the inputs. So next slide, please. Getting into specific inputs, what goes into this, starting with kind of the ones you're probably used to, water distribution. The water fixture type shown here won't actually affect your water rating index. That's going to be on the new tabs. We have to split it out by all the different fixture types, right? Faucets, kitchen faucets, bathroom faucets, and showers. But we do need to know the hot water pipe length and pipe insulation because this will affect hot water waste, which is water use. Then there's also the recirculation system. If you have a recirc system in your residential home, it's great. It can help reduce hot water waste. You're looking at things like the branch length, the total length. I think it's the farthest distance from the recirc loop to the farthest fixture, and the pipe length, recirc pipe length, which is the total length of the return and supply side, the control system, which for residential use, I hope is probably some sort of demand control, and then the recirc pump power. The last one doesn't really affect the water rating index, but these other ones will greatly affect the water waste as well. Next is drain water heat recovery. It's not incredibly common, but sometimes you can capture that waste heat from a faucet or the shower, right? As you take a 15-minute shower, all that heat is just going down the drain, getting wasted. Drain water heat recovery would have some sort of heat exchanger at the drain and capture that and bring it back to the either the hot water tank or like the cold side for that faucet. So you can capture some of the heat and bring it back and reduce hot water usage. Yeah. Now getting into the exciting new stuff. This is what you'll see under the water use checkbox, right? So first off is the static pressure. You're going to be required to have some form of verification for this. It's pretty easy just to do a static pressure test with a valve or a meter like you see here. You can also do a couple other methods here, like if there's an installed pressure tank or pressure reducing valve, you can use those as verification or written documentation from the actual water supplier that the service pressure is less than 90 psi. And so we're looking here, you want it to be less than or 90, less than or equal to 90 psi. If it's greater, there'll be assumptions that the rated home and not the reference home is using more water at the fixtures just because the pressure is higher. Then there's water softener effectiveness in gallons of H2O per 1,000 grains removed. This should be available from any product literature you can see. And if there is no water softener present, just leave it at 0. It'll be excluded from the rated and reference home models. Yeah. Ooh.
Should I go back?
Can you go back? Yeah, okay. Thanks, Patrick. And then here we're just looking at the average shower head flow rates, kitchen sink faucet flow rates, and lavatory faucet, I guess, efficiency or flow rates. And this is what I meant before when we just had to break these down piece by piece. Yeah. Okay. Next slide. And then toilets, right? So, excuse me, is the toilet flush volume marked? A lot of toilets, I think all toilets will have a stamp that declaring how much the flush volume is. I didn't have a picture of it. Should be pretty easy to find on the outside or inside of the tank. And then we need to know the total count of single flush toilets, double flush toilets, and non-consuming water toilets. So toilets that don't actually consume water. And then their average flow rate for each. And so for double flush toilets, you're looking at the average flow rate of 2 reduced flushes and 1 full flush. I guess someone had to think about that. And then we'll average all the toilets together for you. Yeah. So next slide, landscaping. So now we're outside the home, right? So here we need to know the total lot size. So in this image, the total rectangular area, right, of this lot. And then we'll have the pad footprint area. And so that's like the area of the house, the garage, the hardscape stuff that can't be irrigated. And to, you know, subtracting those from each other, we have the total available irrigation area. And so we also need to split this between the front area and the back area. This is pretty subjective. I don't think anyone's going to say you're wrong when you do it, but just come up with some sort of dividing line here, right? Where's the front and what's the back of the home, right? This is a corner lot. It's pretty subjective. I think this is one where you can just do your best. And if there's no irrigation, you can always put 0 irrigation as well. But yeah, so then we need front irrigation area and the back irrigation area as well. And I'm aware that sometimes lots aren't actually finished. And so if the back of the lot isn't finished, so if it's not finished, you don't have to click this is back area improved checkbox. But then there is part of the standard requires that we estimate how much of that back area will be irrigated. And that's in line with the reference irrigation area. You can also see we are displaying the reference irrigation area here. This only depends on the total lot area. So one easy way to beat the reference home here, reduce your water rating index, is just to have less irrigation area, if that's possible, through zero scaping or whatever you might choose. Yeah.
Yeah, Paul, real quick, we have a question here. So, or maybe more of a statement that I just wanted to kind of put your way. You know, and you talked to this a little bit, but the front versus the back area is one of the areas that may need more clarification from the standard. When irrigation is the main driver for compliance in the West, that's like something where subjectivity can make or break WaterSense compliance. So I just want to put that out there. I think we'll talk maybe a little bit even more on that topic when we get to Ricky and how that plays a role. But I do just want to like take them. I guess, do you have anything you want to add to that, or can I?
Yeah. No, go for it.
Okay. I guess I do just want to add a little bit here. You know, this is we're now like fully stepping outside of the home as HERS raters, going beyond the scope of a traditional HERS rating by looking at the landscaping and all of that. We've heard that this landscaping piece is typically the biggest difficult part of, or the most difficult part of doing a HERS H2O rating and getting the builder to pass is getting them on board with the correct irrigation. We've heard the analogy of 20 years ago, it was very difficult to get your insulators or whoever was doing the air sealing to know what they were doing and do a good job, and blower door scores were on average very high. We've now gotten to a place as an industry, blower doors are consistently below 3 ACH 50. This is kind of, we think we're coming up against a similar pain point where just there, we haven't been involved in with the irrigation folks and this kind of workflow. So there's going to be a lot of education and probably pain around getting builders to comply with some of these irrigation measures where they're already pretty used to installing WaterSense fixtures and things like that. That might not be as big of a pain point as some of this irrigation stuff. So just wanted to put that out there. That's something we're hearing, and I know the folks at ResNet have been hearing as well. So I think we're going to stay on this
Oh yeah, we're
irrigation.
staying outside here. Yeah, so lastly is just kind of these outdoor water features. Um, like, is there a pool or spa? If there's a pool or spa, also be present in the reference home. And then irrigation stuff, right? Like, is there automatic irrigation installed? If there is, has that system been audited? Let's just bring a professional out to do the auditing of the system. Is that system weather controlled? I think a lot of modern irrigation controllers have a little bit of Wi-Fi connectivity, and it's pretty easy just to get one extra $100 or something, and that saves you, I believe, 15% on your outdoor water use. So that's a pretty big credit right there. And just it prevents you from watering when it's already raining outside. And then the residential irrigation capacity index. This is another big one. This is basically the total of irrigation of all your zones. So I'm going to measure, if I have 5 zones, I'll measure all 5 zones, how much the flow is from them, and then sum them all up. In this case, it's 9.6, right? And then divide by the total irrigation area divided by 1,000. And so this will give you a relatively small number, right? In this case, 4. And so for this credit, you get 10% for every point you're less than the reference home. And the reference home here is 5. So in this case, I'd have 10%. If my Ricky here, which is displayed here, is 4.5, then I get a 5% credit. And this is basically saying that my rated home has lower, lower flow fixture emitters outside, and this prevents runoff and pooling, leading to excess evaporation, just things like that. Yeah. Do you have anything to add that?
Yeah. I want to add a little bit. Ricky is probably one of the biggest kind of levers you can pull as a HERS rater that is tied to a diagnostic test. So you can almost think of it like ACA 310 or HVAC rating. Of it's a completely optional thing, but if you do it and you're able to get your builder to perform well, it can have a really positive impact on your HERS H2O score.
Well, yeah. I mean, of course, the impact is going to vary by location. How much outdoor water use actually matters. But I think in a place like Phoenix, an already efficient home, you can easily save quite a few points there. Next, this is dishwashers, clothes washers. You already have to add them. You know what they are. I will highlight two things. If you're going to use the custom imports, you really have to make sure you update all of these inputs, right? If you just have a gas water heater, you still have to update the electric rate or the electric cost. And that's largely because we need all of these inputs to figure out how much water the system is actually using. And then for clothes washers, there's also the integrated water factor. And this is to get us the total water use, not just the hot water use.
Um,
Yeah.
Hey, Paul, real quick, we had a
Yeah.
couple questions on irrigation. I just want to
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
we can just go back for 1 second. Um, so we had a question. So basically, smaller lots and lower flow equals a lower WRI. Would you say
Yeah.
that's accurate? Okay.
That's
Um,
fair. Well, not necessarily smaller lots, but smaller irrigation areas relative to the lot size.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like if you have a big lot, but maybe you're only irrigating a portion of it, and that has a lower flow, that's going to be really good for your WRI.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. And then how is the water rating index affected if no irrigation is installed? This is a rater in
Oh, yeah.
New England, and many folks don't install permanent irrigation in that area.
Yeah, that's great. If there's no irrigation, the reference home will still have irrigation. So you'll have a pretty big benefit there for sure.
Awesome. Thanks.
Yeah. Um, yeah. And then for WaterSense, the only additional things we ask besides all of this stuff for HERS H2O is this list of check boxes, right? So that pressure loss test, leak free fixtures, and the WaterSense labeled toilets, sinks, and shower heads. Yeah. And so we also, of course, have all the great QA checks you're used to. Um, uh, for HERS H2O, we have the water rating index and all the other inspection points. And then EPA WaterSense, proof that you've met the target, proof that you've also complied with H2O and the WaterSense requirements. For the H2O check, we've also added the water use information. This isn't something we typically do, but we've surfaced essentially results for the rated home water use and the reference home water use. And so here you can see indoor and outdoor comparisons, right? And so in this case, right, I can see the reference home is using almost 3 times as much outdoor water use as indoor water use. And so I know the reference home's outdoor water use is going to be a really big piece of the pie there. So anything I can do to reduce irrigation will make a larger impact than, putting in shower heads that are now 1.8 instead of 2 GPM. Yeah.
Gotcha. Paul, I got a couple things, but one thing I want to
Yeah.
add, from on average, about 30% of residential water use is used outside of the home. So meaning like the outdoor area. So I mean that's considerable, and especially in warmer climates, and it can often be even higher, closer to 50%. So I just wanted to kind of put that out there that, it really makes sense that if you're going to do a water rating, you really do need that outdoor area calculated. It's not really enough to just focus inside. We had two quick questions, Paul. Um,
Yeah.
so what if washers are not provided by the builder? I guess I assume you would just use one of the like HERS reference washer or Energy Star reference or something like that. What would you suggest?
Yeah, if they're not provided, you should check that washer is unavailable box, or check the box right next to the dishwasher or clothes washer, and that will say it's not here. And then for the purposes of modeling, we'll assume it's the HERS reference. Yeah.
Okay, great. And then one other question. Do you know if I don't know the answer to this one, but do you know if states require additional licensing to do the water pressure testing? Like getting an official license as like a real estate inspector. Um, like
Oh.
one example is folks had to get
Mhm.
IECC certified for doing code
Mhm.
compliance work in some states. I'm not
Mhm.
aware of any laws like that, but are you?
I'm not aware of any laws like that. If you
Okay,
are aware, please let us know. It'd be interesting to hear.
great. Thank you. Yeah, I would say that does not mean there aren't laws. I would just say that that means that Paul and I aren't aware of any laws. Um, and yeah. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, Zach had a point on ResNet guidance is to check clothes washers if the hookups are installed. Uh, that's a tricky one. That's really not the guidance for HERS H2O. I think there's maybe further discussion needed on that one. Um, okay. Oh, someone did mention California does have laws
Oh, okay.
you can perform those tests. So, um, thank you all. Uh, all right, let's keep moving. So
Yeah.
we talked a little bit about these QA checks. I will just say, a lot of times we don't surface this reference home information like we do here, but because this is such a new area and there's kind of so much learning that still needs to be done, we wanted to make sure it was visible and easily accessible for raters. Um, okay.
Yeah. Um, so beyond the HERS rating, there's just a few extra things, right? We're looking at fixtures, figuring out what the flow rates there are, doing pressure loss testing, and doing that leak inspection, and doing lot sizes in the irrigation areas. um, so not much more equipment. Probably already have a measuring tape, um, and probably just need to get something in test pressure, right? And then there's also irrigation inspections. As we mentioned before, this is optional. Doing that, Ricky, though, can provide quite a big benefit. We'd also be interested in hearing from y'all if you've been doing these. Was the hardest part? Takes the longest time with the inspections? Yeah.
All right. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Let's talk a little bit about submission workflow. Um, all right. So, what we're setting up here with HERS H2O is basically a parallel ResNet registry submission workflow to HERS Energy. Um, they can happen at the same time, but they can also happen at different times. We'll talk a little bit about that in a second. Uh, Obviously, it's a ResNet submission, so you will need to have a rater of record, and we do have a uh, user role called the water rating field inspector. This is sort of like RFI, but for water. Uh, just like HERS Energy, we have automatic QA checks when you go to submit with ResNet. This is kind of typical workflow. Um, One thing I will say here about generating reports is, we have the HERS H2O certificate, we have the WaterSense labels and certificate. There's a few other reports that we plan to add, but we would love to hear from folks about what reports would be the most helpful for them. The more kind of requests we get, the quicker we can implement adding these things. So please let us know. And this is an important point here. If you are submitting your HERS H2O registration at a different time than your HERS Energy uh, submission, like let's say you do the final inspection, but the out exterior isn't done for another week, when you go to submit that final water inspection, you may want to also re-register for HERS Energy, because if you need to generate a confirmed HERS certificate and you have made updates to that energy model for HERS H2O, you will lose access to the HERS Energy confirmed certificate. So that's why we typically suggest re-registering if you've already registered for energy, when you register for HERS H2O, or vice versa. If you're doing HERS H2O first, you may want to re-register at the time you register a home for HERS Energy, just so that there's a clear snapshot of like everything is done on this home. That will keep the registry the most up to date. That will keep you having access to all of your reports. This is the HERS H2O certificate. Looks fairly similar to the HERS certificate that we all know and love. Um, you have some information about the, lot size, irrigation area, just kind of building summary information, as well as usage information, um, and a comparison to the reference zone. So a lot of the same kind of useful information that you get from the HERS certificate. All right. So why perform HERS ratings in Ecotrope and also just in general? Let's talk about it. So some of the things that Ecotrope is doing currently, HERS H2O is supported via a spreadsheet. By bringing this into our software, you can now complete HERS H2O ratings all in one place. You no longer have to manage um, uh, two separate tools. And it just allows it all to be in one place. You don't have to worry about version control. Having different versions of the HERS H2O spreadsheet has caused some issues in the past. With Ecotrope, everything is on the same version. It's very easy to go back to old versions or forward if there's newer versions released. Also, obviously, all the reports like HERS Energy are on demand. Currently, if you submit a home for HERS Energy, you may have to wait several hours to get those reports back after you've submitted the spreadsheet. So overall, it saves time. You also get, access to kind of Ecotrope support with all of this, whereas you may not have as, active support from the folks at ResNet. They're great. Just we have very focused, dedicated support people who are standing by on this stuff. So, we had some questions earlier about, is Ecotrope going to charge for this? HERS H2O is currently free. It will start to cost next month. And it's a per project charge, like most other things in Ecotrope. And the cost, you can talk to your ResNet provider to determine what the cost is, but it's less than what a HERS energy rating will be typically. And we're charging for it, because we are, taking on the support of this and trying, to provide value around it. Okay, so why do builders do this? So, saving the client on utility bills. There's a number of kind of national builders who, see water efficiency as really important to their kind of mission as a builder. So they've adopted HERS H2O. There have been some local incentives that have come up. I'm not sure I'm aware of any right now. They may have dried up, but it's something we're monitoring and hoping that there will be more and more utilities that, whether it's local jurisdictions or utilities incentivizing around HERS H2O. And obviously, we would love to support those incentives in Ecotrope. There was also talk of amending the 45L tax credit to include HERS H2O, or there be a portion of it associated with not HERS H2O, WaterSense, my fault. Obviously, that's probably not going anywhere anytime soon, but it still was introduced, and we'll see what happens. And there may be municipalities requiring some form of water efficiency when you're building a new home. And also, I guess, code compliance from a water perspective. And Paul, is it a zero energy ready single family version 2 requirement?
WaterSense is, yeah.
Okay, WaterSense is. Okay, thank you. So if you're doing zero energy ready single family version 2, which I think most folks are still on version 1, it will be a requirement for that new program. Okay, ResNet ResNet HERS H2O submissions are on the rise since the beginning of 2023. The monthly average has more than doubled. So that's great. We're hoping that now that it's supported in Ecotrope, and it's even more accessible for folks and continues to grow in adoption. Currently, it's really focused specifically in Southern Nevada, Southern California, and Arizona. in terms of who's submitting to HERS H2O. But we think there's a big opportunity in a lot of those states where, we were seeing that baseline water stress be very high, like Utah, Texas, Florida, even places like North Carolina potentially. All right. That's basically bringing us near the end. So HERS H2O, big picture, it's a new frontier for HERS raters. Some HERS raters are already well aware and experienced, but in general, it's new for our industry. It is a new kind of tool in the tool belt that a HERS rater can have when talking to a builder, if that's something the builder is interested in. Um, water efficiency, residential water efficiency, like we said, increasing production of potable water is very expensive and very difficult. So we're expecting the demand for water efficiency and water efficient homes to continue to grow. Like what we were looking up earlier, I think 3 of the 5 hottest years on record have happened since 2020. So, I mean, water efficiency is going to continue to be a really important topic. And Ecotrope, we're invested in HERS H2O. We support it. We want it to continue to grow. Please let us know how we can best support this. I know currently we're hoping to support HERS H2O through our inspection sync feature. That should be out fairly soon. But yeah, please let us know. We're here to learn. And lastly, we just want to say thank you for everyone attending. There are quite a few questions, it looks like, so we'll go through some of those here. But I want to say thank you to Paul. Thank you to all of you attending. I also want to give a big shout out to Jonah at the EPA on the WaterSense team. He helped with some of these slides, as well as Ryan Mears at ResNet. He also helped. So big shout out to both of them. We really appreciate the collaborative nature here, because we're all learning about HERS H2O. So, Paul,
Yeah.
any kind of questions while I was talking that you think we should address now?
Yeah. Do you want to touch on this one from Anonymous? Will WaterSense be dissolved along with Energy Star and the EPA?
Yeah, so great question. Obviously there's a lot of change happening right now. I don't think the EPA is going to be dissolved. I don't think the Energy Star program is going to be necessarily fully dissolved. It may change, it may be privatized. There's a lot we don't know about it. That will happen over time. We will see. It may stay as it is. We don't know. WaterSense is different than Energy Star. It is more resilient as a program. There is a specific law that says there will be a WaterSense program and the requirements will be this, this, and this, and that they should be updated every 6 years or so. That is different than the Energy Star program. The Energy Star program is more like there will be a program run by the EPA and the DOE that incentivizes energy efficiency. That leaves a lot more room for interpretation than the law that instituted the WaterSense program. So I'm also not a lawyer, so this is what I understand of this. There are obviously other people that have much more context on this topic, but that's my understanding, is that the WaterSense program is much more robust, and it was actually that law was signed in 2018. So it, theoretically, water efficiency should not really be as much of a partisan issue as energy efficiency is currently. So yeah. Anything else, Paul?
Yeah, here's an important one. From Chris. Did you say you were going to start charging to register H2O and WaterSense inspections through Ecotrope?
Yes. So in August, there will be a charge associated with registering homes with HERS H2O. It will, similar to ResNet registration, it will be a per home fee. It will be less than the ResNet energy per home fee. But yeah, please talk to your provider and they'll get you squared away with all of that. But we are supporting it in our software. We've taken on a lot of work to get it to where it is now. We want to continue to support it, and in order to continue to support it, we do need to charge for it. So, yes, that's the answer. But it is free for the next month. It's been available, I think, already for 3 months. So, go ahead and try it out now before I think it'll be like August 16th or something is kind of the go live date for charging. So feel free to go ahead and try it out now. All right.
Yeah.
And-
Yeah, I've got a pretty open-ended one for you here.
okay.
Um, from Raiders, this is going to cost us more, make us do more work, and it doesn't seem like there's much of an appetite for it outside of areas that pretty much demand it. How can we justify this?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. I mean, this is a evolving, field. Like we're getting there's about maybe 500 submissions per month right now. There's close to 35,000 HERS energy ratings per month. Um, this is We're kind of at the beginning of this being a market and a tool that HERS raters can use. So I would say it's worth having a conversation with your builder, but yeah, if your builder's not paying for you to do a HERS H2O rating, it might not be worth doing a HERS H2O rating. So I'll just kind of leave it at that. But I think there's a lot of emphasis right now in the industry of, hey, can we get code officials and water utilities and folks like that to you know put in requirements or incentives that can potentially help um, build demand for the HERS H2O and the WaterSense program. It's a work in progress, but yeah, absolutely. If you're not being paid to do a HERS H2O rating, I would suggest not doing one, to be honest. Um, but if you want to, absolutely go for it. Great. Yeah. Anything else, Paul?
That's about it.
Okay. I guess I do see I guess one note from a raider in Colorado that uh one of the hardest pieces is sort of the order of operations as a HERS raider. That getting back onto the lot after the home is occupied, especially during winter construction, when irrigation might not be installed yet. Uh, they've had to wait almost until spring to verify the water pressure is working and is testable in the irrigation system. Um, yeah, absolutely. And I think that's like, what one thing we're identifying and then ResNet is identifying is that this irrigation piece and going outside of the home and the timing and order of operation implications of that are going to be one of the biggest learning curves and pain points as HERS H2O continues to progress. I know I've heard like folks in Texas say, hey, they'll just kind of, no one's really looking at this and they'll just put sod everywhere and heavily irrigate it, and it completely knocks you out of the WaterSense program. And, to that, I would say, yeah, I mean, it sounds like if they want to meet WaterSense, they can uh, address their irrigation. But there will be a learning curve. There will be a, kind of slow build of this program, we think. Okay, it looks like we do have a question, Paul, about calculator versions being a concern. Version 8 and 9 are still being accepted by ResNet. However, only version 10 is available in Ecotrope, and version 10 is failing lots that have passed in the other calculator. Yeah, I know this is something we've heard. I think this is going to continue to be maybe a short-term issue, but I think over time, part of our support of HERS H2O, the all versions will come up to date, and there won't be such a dramatic difference between passing and failing between versions. Would you say that's accurate, Paul?
Yeah. I believe ResNet is going to start requiring a new version with the updated standard that's coming out to allow for multifamily.
Mhm.
And I believe they expect kind of by the end of the year, everyone to be using well, it'll probably be version 11, right?
Great.
And
Um,
so
yeah,
version 8 and 9, I think, are going to get sunsetted. Um, and while it does seem like it's easier to pass, I think there are known bugs within those that just kind of make it easier. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and we don't want to be passing with bugs. That's a good point. I didn't mention it earlier, but there is a new WaterSense or a new HERS H2O standard coming out, and it will support multifamily as well as gray water systems. So those will be new pieces that we probably will eventually add to Ecotrope. I don't, the standard's not out, so I don't have any sort of timeline or anything like that, but um, it likely will be supported Ecotrope. So, um, all right. Well, absolutely. Thank you all again for your time. We will be posting a recording of this webinar on our YouTube page. And if you have any questions, you can always reach out to myself or Paul, I'm Patrick at Ecotrope. Paul is Paul at ecotrope.com. Excuse me. And also, you can always reach out to support@ecotrope.com if you have questions. And with that, we really appreciate everyone's time. And we'll call it there. So thank you, everybody.
Yeah. Thank you very much.